Chapter 1. The Rhythm of the Land. The sun, an ancient, benevolent eye, rose each morning over the vast, fertile plains of ancient China, signaling a new day of relentless labor for the diligent farmers. Their lives were intimately entwined with the deep, unending rhythm of the land, a connection forged over countless generations of arduous cultivation and profound respect. From the very moment of their humble birth, their destiny was inextricably linked to the rich, dark soil, the provider of all sustenance and the foundation of their very existence. They understood, with a profound, unspoken wisdom, that their survival depended entirely on the capriciousness of nature and the relentless productivity of their small plots of earth. Each dawn brought with it a fresh set of demanding tasks, a continuous cycle of sowing, nurturing, and ultimately harvesting the life-giving crops that sustained their entire families. Their hands, hardened and calloused from years of ceaseless toil, moved with a practiced, efficient grace, a testament to their deep understanding of agricultural techniques. The air itself, often thick with the scent of damp earth and growing green things, was their constant, pervasive companion, a natural perfume of their demanding lives. They measured time not by arbitrary clocks, but by the changing seasons, the subtle shifts in the wind, and the inevitable growth cycles of their precious crops. Spring was a season of fervent hope and intense preparation, when tiny seeds were carefully entrusted to the earth's nurturing embrace, promising future abundance. Summer brought the relentless, scorching heat and the arduous, continuous weeding, a battle against nature's persistent attempts to reclaim the cultivated fields. Autumn was a time of joyous, profound celebration and intense, communal labor, as the bountiful harvests were carefully gathered, providing for the long, cold months ahead. Winter, though a period of relative rest, was also a time for essential maintenance, repairing tools, and meticulously preparing for the relentless demands of the next agricultural year. Their homes, humble dwellings crafted from mud and wood, stood as sturdy, silent witnesses to their tireless dedication, offering meager but essential shelter. Families worked as a unified, cohesive unit, each member, from the youngest child to the eldest grandparent, contributing their vital part to the collective survival. Children learned to identify various plants and differentiate common pests before they could even master speaking in complete, coherent sentences, a practical education. Elders, their faces deeply etched with the wisdom of countless seasons, offered invaluable advice, guiding the younger generations with their profound experience. The village well, a communal lifeline, provided the cool, refreshing water, essential for both their crops and their very existence, a sacred, shared resource. Their tools, simple but remarkably effective, were extensions of their own hardened bodies, crafted from wood, stone, and later, painstakingly hammered iron. They cherished their hoes, sickles, and plows, understanding that these humble instruments were fundamental to their continuous struggle against hunger and scarcity. The vast Yellow River, or the mighty Yangtze, depending on their precise location, was both a source of profound blessing and a constant potential threat to their livelihoods. Floods could devastate entire harvests in a single, catastrophic rush, washing away years of relentless labor and profoundly impacting their immediate survival. Droughts, equally merciless, could turn fertile fields into cracked, barren landscapes, leading to widespread famine and unimaginable suffering within their communities. Therefore, prayers and offerings to the various nature deities were a fundamental, integral part of their daily lives, seeking divine favor and protection from natural disasters. They believed deeply in the spiritual connection between humanity and the natural world, seeking harmony and balance in all their demanding agricultural endeavors. The constant, rhythmic sound of their labor, the gentle swish of hoes, the soft rustle of growing plants, formed a pervasive, natural symphony of rural life. Their clothes, simple tunics, woven from coarse hemp, offered basic protection from the elements, reflecting their pragmatic and unadorned way of life. Despite the relentless hardships, a deep, pervasive sense of community and profound resilience permeated their daily existence, strengthening their collective spirit. They shared their burdens, celebrated their meager triumphs, and collectively mourned their occasional losses, bound together by their shared struggle and common fate. The stars above, their silent, glittering witnesses, observed the ceaseless toil of these humble farmers, the very backbone of the vast, ancient Chinese empire. Their unwavering dedication ensured that the granaries of the imperial court remained perpetually full, sustaining the ruling elite and the vast, growing population. But for the farmers themselves, their daily efforts were solely focused on the immediate, tangible survival of their own families and their tightly knit, resilient communities. They lived a life of profound simplicity, arduous labor, and deep connection to the earth, a timeless existence dictated by the powerful rhythm of the land itself. Their legacy was etched not in grand monuments, but in the enduring fertility of the fields, a silent, powerful testament to their ceaseless, humble dedication. And so, the sun continued its ancient cycle, rising and setting, guiding the unyielding rhythm of the Chinese farmer's life, generation after endless generation. Chapter 2. The family unit. At the very heart of the ancient Chinese farmer's existence lay the unbreakable, vital bond of the family unit, the cornerstone of their survival and prosperity. It was not merely a collection of individuals, but a tightly knit, indispensable economic and social entity, each member playing a crucial, defined role in the collective effort. The patriarch, often the eldest male, held undisputed authority, his wisdom and experience guiding all major decisions regarding the family's land and resources. His word was law, a profound source of stability and order within the family, ensuring smooth operations and efficient allocation of precious labor. The matriarch, his wife, managed the bustling household with remarkable efficiency, overseeing the meticulous preparation of food, weaving of clothes, and raising of children. Her domestic sphere was equally vital, ensuring the well-being and sustained energy of every family member, allowing them to perform their arduous duties. Children, even from a very tender age, were considered valuable, contributing members of the family workforce, learning essential skills through direct observation and patient imitation. Young boys followed their fathers into the fields, gradually mastering the intricate techniques of plowing, sowing, and harvesting, becoming adept at agricultural tasks. They learned to wield the heavy hoe, to guide the patient ox, and to discern the subtle signs of a healthy crop, knowledge passed down through generations. Girls assisted their mothers in the home, learning to grind grain, prepare simple meals, care for younger siblings, and master the intricate art of weaving textiles. These were not merely chores, but crucial life skills, preparing them for their own future roles within the continuous, rhythmic cycle of agricultural life. Elders, though no longer capable of the most strenuous physical labor, retained immense respect and influence, their accumulated wisdom a treasured resource. They advised on planting times, predicted weather patterns based on age-old observations, and shared invaluable knowledge of traditional remedies and farming lore. Their presence provided a profound sense of continuity, linking the present generation to the countless ancestors who had tilled the very same sacred land. Respect for elders was deeply ingrained, a fundamental principle of filial piety that shaped every aspect of family interactions and decision-making processes. Marriages were often arranged not for romantic love, but for practical considerations, strengthening family alliances and securing additional, much-needed labor. A new daughter-in-law became an integral part of her husband's family, expected to dedicate herself fully to her new household and its continuous well-being. The family shared every meal together, typically a simple fare of millet or rice porridge, with vegetables from their own plot, and occasionally a small piece of meat. These communal meals reinforced their unity, a moment to rest and bond before returning to their relentless duties or preparing for the night's repose. In times of hardship, such as devastating floods or prolonged droughts, the family's resilience was severely tested, pushing them to their absolute limits of endurance. Yet they faced these adversities as one, pooling their meager resources and offering unwavering emotional support to each and every member. The family altar, often a humble niche in the main room, served as a sacred space for ancestor worship, honoring those who had toiled before them. Offerings of food, incense, and silent prayers sought blessings and protection from their revered ancestors, ensuring the family's continued prosperity and well-being. This spiritual connection reinforced their sense of collective identity, a continuous lineage extending far back into the mists of time, deeply rooted in the land. The prosperity of the individual was inseparable from the prosperity of the entire family, fostering a strong sense of cooperation and mutual dependence. Land, often passed down through male heirs, was the family's most precious asset, its preservation and careful cultivation a paramount responsibility. Disputes within the family were rare, typically resolved through the wise counsel of the patriarch, avoiding external intervention and maintaining internal harmony. The continuous cycle of births and deaths was deeply integrated into their lives. Each new child a potential addition to the workforce, each death a profound loss. They understood that the strength of their family was the strength of their farm, and the strength of their farm was the very strength of their lives. The family unit was the enduring, unbreakable core of ancient Chinese agricultural society, a timeless structure that allowed them to persevere through every challenge. Their lives were a testament to cooperation, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to the collective good, ensuring the survival of their lineage. Chapter 3: Tools of the Trade. The life of an ancient Chinese farmer was inextricably linked to their fundamental, often simple, but remarkably effective tools, each a crucial extension of their own labor. These instruments, meticulously crafted and carefully maintained, were not merely objects, but vital partners in their unyielding struggle against the stubborn earth and pervasive weeds. The hoe was perhaps the most ubiquitous and indispensable tool, a versatile implement used for breaking soil, weeding, and creating precise planting furrows. Its sturdy wooden handle and broad, flat iron blade became a natural extension of the farmer's arm, moving with a tireless, rhythmic precision throughout the demanding day. Farmers spent countless hours bending over their fields, methodically chopping at roots and turning the soil, their hoes becoming a blurred extension of their own bodies. The plow, initially a simple wooden stick drawn by human power, evolved over centuries into a more efficient, iron-tipped implement pulled by strong, patient oxen. The development of the curved iron moldboard plow, a significant technological innovation, allowed for more efficient turning of soil, improving aeration and fertility. Guiding the heavy plow through the often rocky terrain required immense physical strength, unwavering patience, and a deep understanding of the land's subtle contours. The farmer walked behind the plow, his bare feet sinking into the freshly turned earth, his hands firmly gripping the handles, a profound connection to the soil. Sickles, with their curved blades, were essential for harvesting grain, allowing the farmer to quickly and efficiently cut swaths of ripe stalks. The rhythmic swish of countless sickles cutting through golden fields at harvest time created a pervasive, natural symphony of communal agricultural labor. For larger-scale harvesting, some regions utilized a reaping knife, a long-handled tool for more extensive cutting, though less precise than the sickle. Shovels and spades were fundamental for moving earth, digging irrigation ditches, and preparing planting beds, requiring significant upper body strength. The construction of intricate irrigation systems, vital for rice cultivation, relied heavily on these digging tools, shaping the landscape to suit agricultural needs. Harrows, often with iron teeth, were dragged across newly plowed fields to break up clods of earth, smooth the surface, and prepare a fine seedbed. These implements ensured that the delicate seeds had the best possible chance to germinate and flourish, maximizing crop yields from their limited land. Rollers, sometimes heavy stone cylinders, were used to compact the soil after planting, protecting seeds from birds and aiding moisture retention. For threshing grain, farmers used simple flails, beating the harvested stalks to separate the precious kernels from the inedible husks, a dusty, vigorous task. The grain was then meticulously winnowed, using winnowing forks or large flat baskets, tossing the grain into the wind to blow away the lighter chaff. This ancient method of separating grain was a common sight in every village after harvest, the air filled with the dust and light particles of the winnowed chaff. For husking rice, farmers often employed foot-operated pounders or simple mortars and pestles, a laborious but necessary process. Water wheels and foot-operated chain pumps were ingenious inventions for lifting water from rivers or canals to irrigate distant fields, a marvel of ancient engineering. These devices, though requiring continuous human effort to operate, were crucial for sustaining wet rice cultivation, especially in the southern regions of China. Weeding tools, often smaller versions of hoes, were used to painstakingly remove unwanted plants that competed with their precious crops for nutrients and water. The constant battle against weeds was a never-ending task, requiring immense patience and tireless effort throughout the growing season. Simple baskets and carrying poles were indispensable for transporting harvested crops, manure, water, and tools across the fields and back to the village. The sight of farmers balancing heavy baskets on shoulder poles was ubiquitous, a symbol of their continuous, demanding physical labor. Their tools were not mere possessions. They were treasured companions, often passed down through generations, bearing the silent marks of countless seasons of toil. Repairing a broken tool was a priority, often done by the farmer himself or by a skilled village craftsman, ensuring the continuity of their work. The materials were humble: wood, bamboo, stone, and iron, yet transformed by human ingenuity into instruments of profound productivity. These were the extensions of their hands, their backs, and their tireless spirit, allowing them to carve a living from the unforgiving land. The ancient Chinese farmers' tools were a testament to their practicality, innovation, and unwavering commitment to coaxing sustenance from the earth. Chapter 4: Daily Life and Diet. The daily life of an ancient Chinese farmer was dictated by the rising and setting of the sun, a relentless, cyclical existence driven by the demands of the land and the needs of their family. They typically rose before dawn, often with the first faint blush of light in the eastern sky, beginning their demanding day with simple, silent preparation. After a brief, hurried toilet and perhaps a few sips of warm water, they would gather for a simple, rudimentary breakfast, often the most basic meal of the entire day. This morning meal usually consisted of thin porridge made from millet or coarse grains, sometimes flavored with a handful of wild herbs or a few meager vegetables. There was little time for leisure or elaborate rituals. The fields beckoned, and every moment of daylight was precious for the vital work of cultivation. Men and older boys would head directly to the fields, carrying their hoes, sickles, and other tools, their footsteps quiet on the dew-kissed paths. Women and older girls attended to household chores, fetching water from the village well, preparing the midday meal, and tending to younger children. Their day in the fields was long and arduous, a continuous cycle of bending, stooping, tilling, planting, weeding, and mending, often under the relentless sun. They rarely took breaks, perhaps pausing only for a quick drink of water from a gourd, or to wipe the sweat from their sun-weathered brows. Lunch, the main meal of their demanding day, was usually brought to the fields by the women and children, a brief respite from the incessant labor. It was typically a larger portion of grain-based food, often steamed buns or thick noodles, accompanied by boiled vegetables or pickled greens. Meat was a rare luxury, reserved for special festivals or important family occasions, a testament to their subsistence-level existence. Fish, if they lived near rivers or ponds, might occasionally supplement their diet, providing much-needed protein and variety. After the midday meal, they would immediately return to their demanding tasks, working tirelessly until the sun began its slow descent towards the western horizon. The fading light signaled the end of the most intense physical labor, but chores continued even after they left the fields for the day. Upon returning home, men would tend to their tools, making minor repairs or cleaning the earth from their implements, preparing for the next dawn. Women would resume their domestic duties, grinding grain for the next day, mending clothes, or perhaps spinning hemp fibers into sturdy thread. Evening meals were simple, similar to breakfast, reflecting the scarce resources and their exhausted bodies' need for basic sustenance and rest. After supper, there was little time or energy for recreation. Conversations were brief, often focused on the next day's tasks or the state of the crops. Children might play simple, quiet games in the twilight, but soon they, too, would be sent to their sleeping mats, their youthful energy utterly spent. Families would gather around a humble oil lamp, its flickering light casting dancing shadows on the mud walls, before retiring for the night. Sleep came easily, a profound and welcome oblivion after a day of unremitting physical exertion, restoring their weary bodies for the next dawn. Their diet, though simple, was nutritionally balanced for their demanding lifestyle. Heavily reliant on staple grains like millet, wheat, barley, or rice, depending on the region. Soybeans were a crucial source of protein processed into tofu or fermented products, providing essential nutrients often lacking in a meat-scarce diet. Various vegetables, grown in small garden plots near their homes, added essential vitamins and minerals, providing diversity to their limited fare. Wild greens, foraged from the surrounding countryside, often supplemented their cultivated produce, especially in times of scarcity or lean seasons. Salt was a precious commodity, used sparingly to preserve food and enhance the flavor of their otherwise bland, staple-based meals. They rarely consumed dairy products, as cows were primarily draft animals, valued for their labor in the fields rather than for milk production. Water was their primary beverage, drawn from wells or nearby rivers, often boiled to ensure safety, a fundamental part of their daily routine. Their lives were a continuous testament to resilience, resourcefulness, and an unwavering acceptance of their demanding, often challenging, existence. Every day was a struggle for survival, a direct negotiation with the land, but one undertaken with profound patience and a deep sense of enduring purpose. Chapter 5. Seasons of Toil. The life of an ancient Chinese farmer was inextricably bound to the relentless, demanding cycle of the 4 distinct seasons, each bringing its own specific toil and profound challenges. Spring, the season of hope and awakening, as winter's icy grip gradually loosened. The first subtle signs of spring brought a surge of renewed hope and intense preparation to the farming communities. The air softened, the frost retreated, and the earth, once dormant and hard, began to slowly thaw, eager to receive the life-giving seeds of the new year. Farmers meticulously inspected their plows and hoes, sharpening blades and mending wooden handles, ensuring every tool was ready for the arduous tasks ahead. The fields, fallow and barren through the cold months, were now meticulously plowed, turning over the dark, rich soil, preparing it for new growth. This initial plowing was back-breaking work, often done with the assistance of patient oxen, their slow, steady pace echoing the deliberate rhythm of the season. Seeds of millet, wheat, barley, or rice were carefully selected, often saved from the previous year's best harvest. The planting was a meticulous ritual, tiny seeds painstakingly placed into precise furrows, entrusted to the nurturing earth with profound hope and silent prayers. For rice farmers, spring meant preparing the paddy fields, leveling the ground, repairing booms, and slowly flooding them with precious, life-giving water. Young rice seedlings, often cultivated in nursery beds, were then painstakingly transplanted by hand into the muddy paddies, a task requiring immense precision and patience. Women and children often assisted in this delicate work, their bare feet sinking into the cool, wet mud, their hands moving with quiet, practiced efficiency. Spring also brought the ubiquitous and relentless battle against weeds, which sprang up vigorously with the new warmth, competing fiercely with the tender crops. Continuous weeding was a crucial, never-ending task throughout the spring and early summer, protecting the vulnerable young plants from invasive competition. Summer, the season of growth and endurance. Summer arrived with its relentless, oppressive heat and long, arduous days, pushing the farmer's endurance to their absolute physical and mental limits. The crops grew rapidly under the abundant sun and frequent, life-sustaining rains, demanding constant attention and diligent care from the farmers. Weeding remained a primary, continuous chore, often performed under the blazing sun. Irrigation became paramount, especially during dry spells, requiring tireless effort to divert water from rivers or wells to parched fields, using simple, effective methods. Thunderstorms, often violent and unpredictable, brought both welcome rain and the terrifying threat of destructive hailstones or sudden, devastating floods. Constant vigilance was required, as a single severe storm could wipe out weeks of relentless labor, turning fields into muddy, barren wastelands in moments. During this peak growing season, the farmer's life was one of unremitting toil, driven by the powerful imperative to ensure the eventual successful harvest. Autumn, the season of harvest and gratitude. Autumn was the season of profound culmination, bringing the long-awaited harvest and a deep sense of gratitude for the earth's sustained generosity. The fields, once green and vibrant, transformed into vast golden landscapes, heavy with ripe grains, ready for the painstaking communal gathering. Harvesting was a period of intense collective labor, involving every able-bodied family member, from the youngest child to the most experienced elder. Men used sickles to cut the stalks, while women and children often followed behind, meticulously gathering the cut bundles and carrying them to the threshing floor. The threshing, often done by beating the stalks with flails or trampling them with oxen, separated the precious grain from the dry, inedible husks. Winnowing, the process of tossing the grain into the wind to separate the lighter chaff, filled the air with dust and the pervasive scent of dry straw. The harvested grain was then meticulously stored in earthenware jars or carefully constructed granaries, protecting it from pests and moisture for the lean months. This period was a joyous, communal celebration, punctuated by festivals of thanksgiving and offerings to the ancestral spirits for the bounty received. Despite the continued hard work, there was a palpable sense of relief and satisfaction, knowing that their diligent efforts had secured their survival for another year. Winter, the season of rest and preparation. Winter brought a period of relative, well-deserved rest, a lull in the intense agricultural cycle, but certainly not a time of complete idleness for the vigilant farmers. The fields lay fallow, often covered in a pristine blanket of snow, allowing the earth to rejuvenate and regain its vital nutrients for the next demanding season. Farmers used this time to repair their tools, mend their worn clothes, and construct new implements from wood and salvaged metal, preparing for future tasks. They engaged in domestic crafts, such as weaving baskets, crafting simple furniture, or preparing fibers for cloth, contributing to the household's self-sufficiency. Lessons were passed down to younger generations. Stories were told around humble hearths, reinforcing family bonds and cultural traditions during the long, dark evenings. Careful budgeting of stored food became paramount, ensuring that the precious reserves lasted until the first new crops emerged in the distant spring. In some regions, farmers might engage in hunting or fishing to supplement their meager winter diet, providing rare protein sources for their families. Winter was also a time for community gatherings, sharing stories, and performing rituals to ensure good fortune and plentiful harvests in the upcoming year. The harsh cold brought its own dangers, but the quiet of winter was a welcome respite, a time for bodies to recover and minds to rest before the next relentless cycle. As winter gradually yielded to the subtle promise of spring, the farmers braced themselves for the renewal of their tireless toil, forever bound to the seasons of their land. Chapter 6. Water and irrigation water, the very essence of life, was the single most crucial and often challenging element for ancient Chinese farmers, especially those cultivating rice in the vast, fertile southern plains. The control and efficient management of water resources were paramount, often demanding ingenious engineering and ceaseless human labor, a constant battle against nature's whims. For wet rice cultivation, the construction and meticulous maintenance of intricate paddy fields were fundamental, transforming the landscape into a series of leveled, terraced basins. Each paddy had to be perfectly leveled to ensure uniform water distribution, and its surrounding earthen bundles needed constant reinforcement to prevent precious water leakage. The process of flooding the paddies was a critical spring ritual, channeling water from nearby rivers, canals, or reservoirs into the meticulously prepared fields. This required a deep understanding of local topography and hydrological principles, often passed down through generations of experienced, observant farmers. In many regions, irrigation canals, some stretching for many miles, were meticulously dug and maintained by entire communities, a colossal undertaking requiring immense cooperation. These canals brought life-sustaining water from distant rivers to otherwise arid or upland fields, expanding the arable land and securing more reliable harvests. The ancient Chinese developed remarkably innovative and efficient water-lifting devices to transport water from lower sources to higher fields, showcasing their ingenuity. The foot-operated chain pump was a widespread and iconic invention, allowing one or two farmers to continuously lift water using a series of wooden pallets on a chain. Working these chain pumps was incredibly arduous and repetitive, requiring tireless leg strength and unwavering stamina, often performed under the relentless summer sun. Water wheels, often powered by the flow of rivers or by animal traction, were also employed for larger-scale irrigation, particularly along major waterways. These impressive wooden structures, often adorned with a series of buckets or scoops, continuously lifted water and discharged it into higher-level irrigation channels. Well digging was another crucial aspect of water management, providing a reliable source of water for domestic use, livestock, and supplementary irrigation in drier areas. The process of manually digging deep wells, often through challenging soil or rock formations, was a dangerous and labor-intensive undertaking, a testament to their perseverance. Farmers used simple buckets and ropes to draw water from these wells, a daily ritual that provided essential liquid for their families and their small vegetable gardens. Rainfall was both a blessing and a curse. Abundant, timely rains were celebrated, ensuring lush growth and healthy crops, filling rivers and reservoirs. However, monsoon rains could be devastating, leading to sudden, catastrophic floods that submerged entire villages, washing away homes, crops, and lives in a single rush. Conversely, prolonged droughts were equally terrifying, turning fertile fields into cracked, barren landscapes, leading to widespread famine and unimaginable suffering. Therefore, water conservation was a deeply ingrained practice. Every drop was precious, used judiciously, and never wasted, reflecting their profound reverence for the resource. Dams and small reservoirs were sometimes constructed at a local level to capture and store rainwater, providing crucial reserves during dry periods for the farmers. The regular maintenance of irrigation systems was a continuous, communal responsibility. Clogged channels had to be cleared, and damaged bundles meticulously repaired. Neglect could lead to widespread crop failure, emphasizing the vital importance of collective effort and shared vigilance in managing precious water resources. Farmers developed an intuitive, profound understanding of local hydrology, observing river levels, predicting rainfall patterns, and adapting their practices accordingly. This deep knowledge, passed down through generations, allowed them to optimize their irrigation techniques and mitigate the risks associated with water scarcity or excess. Rituals and prayers to water deities were common, seeking divine favor for timely rains and protection from devastating floods or prolonged destructive droughts. The annual cycle of water, from the melting snows in the mountains to the gentle rains of spring and the powerful monsoons of summer, dictated their very existence. The life of an ancient Chinese farmer was a continuous, tireless dance with water, a partner both vital and unpredictable, shaping every aspect of their agricultural toil. Their ingenious methods of water management stood as a profound testament to their resourcefulness, perseverance, and deep connection to the life-giving essence of water. Chapter 7: Crops and Cultivation. The success of an ancient Chinese farmer hinged entirely on their profound knowledge of specific crops and the meticulous, painstaking techniques required for their successful cultivation. The staple crop varied significantly depending on the region's climate, topography, and access to water, profoundly shaping the daily lives and diets of the farming communities. In the warmer, wetter south, particularly along the Yangtze River basin and its tributaries, rice reigned supreme as the undisputed king of all crops. Wet rice cultivation was an incredibly labor-intensive process, demanding constant attention, sophisticated irrigation, and a deep understanding of the unique crop's needs. Farmers first prepared nursery beds, where rice seeds were meticulously sown and allowed to germinate and grow into sturdy, healthy young seedlings. Once the seedlings reached a specific height, they were painstakingly transplanted by hand into the meticulously prepared, flooded paddy fields, one by one. This transplanting was a communal activity, often involving entire families or even neighboring households working together in the muddy fields for days on end. The paddies remained flooded for most of the growing season, suppressing weeds and providing optimal conditions for the rice plants to thrive and produce grain. Weeding the flooded paddies was still necessary, often done by hand, pulling out competing plants from the water, a tedious but crucial task. As the rice matured, the water was gradually drained, allowing the grains to ripen and the fields to dry somewhat before the arduous communal harvest. In the cooler, drier north, particularly along the Yellow River basin, millet and wheat were the primary staple crops. Adapted to the different climate, millet, a drought-resistant grain, was often the more reliable crop in areas with unpredictable rainfall, providing a fundamental source of sustenance for northern farmers. It was typically planted in spring and harvested in late summer or early autumn, forming the backbone of the northern farmer's diet and agricultural cycle. Wheat, another crucial cereal, was often cultivated as a winter crop in some northern regions, planted in autumn and harvested in the following spring or early summer. This allowed for double cropping in suitable areas, maximizing land productivity and ensuring a more consistent food supply for the industrious farmers. Soybeans were another incredibly vital crop throughout China. Regardless of region, revered for their versatility and exceptional nutritional value. They were cultivated for their beans, which could be consumed directly or processed into various essential products like tofu, soy sauce, and fermented pastes. Soybeans were a crucial source of protein in a diet where meat was a rare luxury, playing an indispensable role in maintaining the health of the farming populace. Hemp was widely grown, not for food, but for its incredibly strong fibers, which were painstakingly processed to weave durable cloth for clothing and ropes. This ensured that farmers could produce their own essential textiles, reducing their reliance on external markets and enhancing their self-sufficiency. Vegetables were cultivated in small, intensively managed garden plots. Common vegetables included various types of cabbage, gourds, onions, garlic, radishes, and leafy greens, adding much-needed diversity to their daily diet. Fruit trees, such as peaches, plums, apricots, and persimmons, were often grown near the village or within family compounds, providing seasonal treats and additional income. Tea, while not a staple food, became an increasingly important crop in certain southern regions, especially during later dynasties, contributing significantly to trade and culture. Crop rotation was an ancient and essential practice, though not always formalized, allowing the soil to rest and replenish nutrients, preventing depletion. Farmers understood the importance of returning organic matter to the soil, meticulously collecting manure from livestock and human waste to fertilize their fields. This meticulous attention to soil fertility was paramount, ensuring the long-term productivity of their limited, precious arable land, a cornerstone of sustainable agriculture. Pest control was largely a manual and labor-intensive effort, involving hand-picking insects or using simple, traditional remedies to protect their valuable crops. The threat of locust swarms or other widespread pest infestations was constant and terrifying, capable of destroying entire harvests in a matter of days. The continuous success of an ancient Chinese farmer was a profound testament to their deep ecological knowledge, their tireless dedication, and their ingenious agricultural practices. Their methods, often passed down through countless generations, formed the very foundation of Chinese civilization, feeding a vast and growing population for millennia. Chapter 8: Challenges and Resilience: The Life of an Ancient Chinese Farmer. Though deeply connected to the land, was relentlessly fraught with immense challenges, testing their resilience and spirit daily. The most constant and terrifying threat was the unpredictable and often extreme nature of the elements, capable of wiping out years of labor in a single, catastrophic event. Floods, particularly from the mighty Yellow River, known as China's Sorrow, could devastate entire regions, submerging villages and washing away precious topsoil. A sudden, torrential downpour could turn a calm river into a raging torrent, sweeping away homes, livestock, and the very foundation of their meager existence. Farmers often faced the agonizing choice of abandoning their homes to save their families, knowing their livelihoods might be utterly ruined by the receding waters. Conversely, prolonged droughts were equally merciless, turning once fertile fields into cracked, barren landscapes, devoid of moisture and incapable of supporting life. The sight of their precious crops wilting and dying under a relentless, scorching sun filled them with profound despair, portending famine and widespread suffering. Without sufficient water, planting was impossible, and the cycle of life abruptly halted, leaving communities vulnerable to starvation and forced migration. Pest infestations posed another devastating threat. Swarms of locusts could descend upon fields, devouring entire harvests in a matter of hours, leaving desolation. Smaller insects, though less dramatic, continually gnawed at roots and leaves, steadily diminishing yields and requiring constant, laborious handpicking to mitigate their damage. Disease, affecting both humans and livestock, was a constant shadow. A single epidemic could decimate a family or an entire village, leaving profound loss. Lacking advanced medicine, farmers relied on traditional remedies, herbal knowledge, and the resilience of their own bodies to combat pervasive ailments. Famine was a recurrent, terrifying specter, the direct consequence of successive floods, droughts, or pest outbreaks, pushing communities to the brink of survival. During times of famine, families resorted to desperate measures, eating tree bark, wild roots, or even clay as their stored grain dwindled to nothing. The specter of starvation often led to social unrest, banditry, and mass migrations, further destabilizing already vulnerable agricultural regions. Beyond nature's wrath, farmers faced heavy taxation imposed by the imperial government, demanding a significant portion of their meager harvests. These taxes, often collected in grain, filled the imperial granaries and supported the vast bureaucracy and military, often leaving farmers with barely enough to survive. Labor, mandatory public works projects, such as building canals, roads, or city walls, also demanded their precious time and physical effort, often at critical farming seasons. This forced labor meant time away from their own fields, jeopardizing their harvests and adding immense burdens to their already challenging lives. Land ownership was often precarious. Many farmers were tenants, working land owned by wealthy landlords, to whom they paid a substantial portion of their harvest as rent. This left them vulnerable to exploitation and perpetual indebtedness, trapped in a cycle of poverty from which escape was incredibly difficult. Even for those who owned their small plots, natural disasters or heavy taxes could force them to sell their land, falling into the ranks of landless laborers or tenants. Banditry and local unrest, often fueled by famine or oppressive governance, posed a threat to their safety, property, and meager accumulated wealth. Despite these relentless challenges, the ancient Chinese farmer displayed an extraordinary degree of resilience and unwavering perseverance. Their strong family bonds and tightly knit community structures provided essential mutual support, allowing them to collectively endure and rebuild after crises. They developed sophisticated risk mitigation strategies, such as diversified cropping, meticulous food storage, and reliance on collective labor for irrigation and repair. Their profound connection to the land and their ancestors provided a deep spiritual foundation, instilling a sense of purpose and continuity despite adversity. They believed in the cyclical nature of existence, accepting hardship as part of life's rhythm, always striving for harmony with the powerful forces of nature. The farmers were the unwavering backbone of Chinese civilization, their persistent labor ensuring the survival of the empire through millennia of trials. Their story is one of silent endurance, profound dedication, and an unyielding will to survive and thrive against overwhelming odds, generation after generation. Chapter 9: Community and Social Life. The ancient Chinese farmers' existence, while dominated by arduous labor, was profoundly shaped by the vibrant and essential fabric of their tightly knit village community and its intricate social life. The village was not just a collection of individual homes. It was a deeply interconnected organism where mutual support and collective action were paramount for survival. Work in the fields, especially during peak seasons like planting and harvest, was often a communal effort, reinforcing bonds and distributing the immense workload. Neighbors assisted each other with heavy tasks, sharing their labor for plowing, transplanting rice seedlings, or constructing and repairing crucial irrigation channels. This collective labor fostered a deep sense of shared destiny, as the success or failure of one farmer's harvest often impacted the entire community's well-being. The village had a clear, established social hierarchy, with respected elders, experienced farmers, and sometimes a headman or local scholar acting as leaders. These figures arbitrated disputes, organized communal projects, and represented the village's interests to external authorities, ensuring local governance and order. Social life revolved around festivals and traditional celebrations, which provided vital breaks from the unremitting toil and opportunities for communal bonding. The Spring Festival, marking the Lunar New Year, was the most significant celebration, a time for family reunions, ancestor worship, and prayers for good harvests. Lantern Festival, Dragon Boat Festival, and Mid-Autumn Festival were other joyous occasions, celebrated with special foods, performances, and communal rituals. These festivals provided emotional release, allowing farmers to momentarily forget their hardships and celebrate their shared cultural heritage and collective identity. Religious practices were deeply intertwined with their agricultural lives, often centered around animism, ancestor worship, and reverence for nature deities. Local shrines and temples, often dedicated to a tutelary deity of the village or a specific mountain or river god, served as focal points for communal worship. Farmers offered prayers and sacrifices, seeking blessings for fertile land, timely rains, protection from floods and droughts, and abundant harvests. Ancestor worship was a fundamental aspect of their spiritual life, conducted at family altars in their homes or at communal ancestral temples. Honoring ancestors was believed to ensure their continued protection and influence on the family's prosperity and the success of their agricultural endeavors. Market days in nearby towns or larger villages provided a crucial link to the outside world, allowing farmers to sell surplus produce and acquire essential goods. They traded their grains, vegetables, textiles, and sometimes crafted goods for salt, iron tools, pottery, and other necessities not produced in their own homes. These market days were also important social events, opportunities to meet relatives from other villages, exchange news, and perhaps enjoy a simple meal outside the home. Storytelling was a common form of evening entertainment, especially during the long winter months. Gathered around a humble hearth, elders would recount ancient myths, heroic tales, family histories, and practical farming wisdom, transmitting knowledge and cultural values to younger generations. Simple games and music, perhaps played on bamboo flutes or simple drums, also provided entertainment during rare moments of leisure or during festivals. While their lives were characterized by hard labor, they also contained moments of simple joy, solidarity, and profound connection to their community and traditions. The pervasive sense of belonging and mutual reliance within the village provided a crucial buffer against the harsh realities of their demanding agricultural existence. It was this robust social fabric that allowed the ancient Chinese farmer to persevere through relentless challenges, embodying remarkable resilience and enduring spirit. Their community was their strength, their safety net, and the very foundation of their identity, ensuring the continuous rhythm of life in their ancient villages. Chapter 10: Governance and the Imperial State. The life of an ancient Chinese farmer, though seemingly isolated in their humble village, was profoundly and continuously influenced by the omnipresent power of the imperial state. From the highest emperor in his distant palace to the lowest district magistrate, the imperial government exerted significant control over every aspect of their agricultural existence. Farmers were the very backbone of the imperial economy, their tireless labor providing the foundational surplus that allowed for the existence of cities, scholars, and a ruling elite. The most direct form of state control was taxation, primarily collected as a portion of their annual grain harvest, often a significant and burdensome amount. These grain taxes were meticulously calculated and rigorously enforced by local officials, leaving farmers with often meager amounts for their own subsistence. The collected grain filled vast imperial granaries, providing strategic reserves for times of famine, military campaigns, or urban consumption, centralizing control over food supply. In addition to grain, farmers were often required to pay a labor tax, compelling them to dedicate a certain number of days each year to public works projects. These projects included the construction and maintenance of crucial irrigation canals. Working on these projects often coincided with critical farming seasons, forcing farmers to neglect their own fields, jeopardizing their harvests, and causing immense hardship. The state also imposed a military conscription. This removal of vital labor from the household further strained family resources and added another layer of profound burden to their already challenging lives. The imperial government, through its complex bureaucratic apparatus, exerted control over land registration and distribution, dictating who owned what and how it was taxed. While theoretically promoting equitable land distribution, in practice, corruption and the accumulation of large estates by wealthy landlords often led to widespread landlessness among farmers. Local officials, such as magistrates and their subordinate clerks, were the direct representatives of imperial authority in the villages, overseeing tax collection and justice. These officials held immense power over the farmers' lives, capable of enforcing harsh penalties, resolving disputes, and maintaining order, often through arbitrary means. Knowing their lives were ultimately at the mercy of state authority and its representatives, the state also played a significant role in water management, funding and organizing large-scale irrigation projects like major canals and reservoirs, vital for agricultural productivity. The promulgation of agricultural policies, promoting specific crops, techniques, or land management practices, further shaped the farmers' daily routines. Philosophies like Confucianism, which emphasized social harmony, filial piety, and the importance of agriculture as the foundation of society, reinforced the farmers' social status, albeit at the bottom. Despite their crucial role, farmers were generally at the lowest rung of the social hierarchy, often exploited and voiceless. Rebellions by desperate farmers, often triggered by severe famine. These peasant uprisings, though often brutally suppressed, sometimes led to dynastic changes, highlighting the farmers' collective power when pushed to their absolute limits. Yet, for most farmers, daily life was one of quiet submission to imperial authority, focusing on survival within the established system rather than outright defiance. They understood that the state provided a semblance of order and protection, however harsh, against chaos and external threats, a necessary evil for their existence. The vast administrative machinery of the imperial state, fueled by the relentless toil of millions of farmers, ensured the longevity and stability of one of history's greatest empires. The farmer's life was therefore a continuous negotiation with both nature's unpredictable forces and the unwavering Sisyphe, often demanding, power of the imperial state. Chapter 11. Food Preservation and Storage for the Ancient Chinese Farmer. Mastering the art of food preservation and storage was absolutely critical. A fundamental skill distinguishing survival from widespread famine, especially during the lean months. The successful harvest was merely the first step. Meticulously safeguarding its bounty was an equally arduous and vital task, requiring ingenuity and constant vigilance against spoilage and pests. Grain storage was paramount, as staples like millet, wheat, and rice formed the backbone of their diet and their tax obligations to the imperial state. Farmers carefully dried their harvested grain, spreading it out on mats under the sun, turning it frequently to prevent moisture buildup, which could lead to mold and rot. Once thoroughly dry, the grain was stored in large earthenware jars, often sealed with clay or mud, protecting it from moisture, insects, and rodents. For larger quantities, especially at the communal or landlord level, elaborate granaries were constructed, often raised off the ground to prevent dampness and pest infiltration. These granaries, built from wood, brick, or packed earth, featured thick walls and tightly fitting doors, creating a cool, dark, and dry environment for long-term storage. Constant vigilance was required, with regular inspections for signs of pest infestation or moisture, which could rapidly spoil entire precious reserves. Vegetable preservation was another crucial skill, as fresh produce was seasonal, and year-round access to nutrients was vital for their well-being. Salting was a common method, particularly for leafy greens like cabbage, which were layered with salt and pressed, creating a form of pickled vegetable. These salted vegetables provided a pungent, flavorful addition to their bland, grain-based meals during the long, cold winter months. Drying was extensively used for various vegetables, including beans, gourds, mushrooms, and certain greens, which were cut into thin slices and sun-dried. Once dry, these vegetables could be stored for many months, reconstituted later by soaking in water, providing essential nutrients when fresh produce was scarce. Fermentation played a significant role, not only for soybeans, but also for certain vegetables and grains. Fermented foods were not only preserved, but often became more nutritious and digestible, adding complex flavors to their limited diet, a crucial culinary technique. Pickling in brine or vinegar was another method, used for vegetables like radishes, cucumbers, and ginger, extending their shelf life and adding a tangy flavor. Root vegetables, such as radishes and taro, could often be stored in cool, dry pits dug into the earth, covered with straw or sand to protect them from frost and rot. Meat preservation was less common for most farmers, as meat was a luxury, but any surplus was typically salted, smoked, or dried to prevent spoilage. Fish, if available, was often dried in the sun or salted and then smoked, allowing it to be stored for extended periods, providing a crucial protein source. Fruit preservation was mostly through drying, especially for persimmons, dates, and apricots, which could be sun-dried and enjoyed as a sweet treat during winter. Honey, if available from wild bees or rudimentary hives, was stored in sealed jars, providing a natural sweetener and a valuable source of energy. The village's communal efforts often extended to sharing preservation techniques and helping each other construct and maintain storage facilities. Knowledge of proper storage conditions, including controlling temperature, humidity, and ventilation, was passed down through generations of experienced farmers. The meticulous care taken in preserving and storing food was a direct reflection of their deep understanding of the unpredictable nature of life and the ever-present threat of scarcity. A successful harvest was celebrated, but a successfully stored harvest was the true guarantee of survival through the lean times, a profound source of peace of mind. Their reliance on these traditional methods of preservation underscored their profound self-sufficiency and their ingenuity in maximizing the utility of every crop they grew. The quiet, unceasing labor of food preservation was as vital as the toil in the fields, securing the sustenance of their families and the continuity of their lineage. Chapter 12: Superstition and Beliefs. The ancient Chinese farmer's world was not solely defined by the physical demands of labor, but also profoundly shaped by a rich tapestry of superstition, deep-seated beliefs, and pervasive spiritual practices. Their intimate connection to the land and the unpredictable forces of nature instilled a powerful sense of reliance on spiritual harmony and divine favor in their daily lives. Ancestor worship was perhaps the most fundamental and pervasive belief, forming the very cornerstone of their spiritual and social fabric. Families maintained humble altars in their homes, dedicated to deceased parents, grandparents, and more distant ancestors, offering daily prayers and periodic sacrifices. Offerings included simple foods, incense, and sometimes paper money, burned to ensure the comfort and well-being of ancestors in the afterlife. It was believed that revered ancestors continued to watch over their living descendants, influencing their fortunes, protecting the family, and ensuring successful harvests. Neglecting ancestor worship was considered a grave offense, potentially leading to misfortune, crop failure, and even familial ruin, instilling deep reverence. Nature deities played an immensely significant role, as farmers understood their lives were at the mercy of forces far beyond their direct control. The god of soil was widely revered, with small shrines often found at the edge of fields or within villages, honoring the spirit of the fertile earth. Farmers offered prayers to Tudi Gong for bountiful harvests, protection from pests, and general prosperity for their agricultural endeavors, seeking his benevolent gaze. The god of rain, or the Dragon King, was crucial, especially for rice farmers, with fervent prayers offered for timely, sufficient rainfall and protection from floods. During prolonged droughts, elaborate rituals and desperate prayers might be performed to appease the Dragon King, begging for life-sustaining water from the heavens. The god of thunder and the goddess of lightning were both feared and revered, their powerful, destructive forces capable of devastating crops. Offerings were made to mitigate their wrath, seeking protection from destructive storms, hailstones, and the fierce winds that could flatten entire fields. Farmers also observed celestial phenomena with profound reverence, believing that the movements of stars and planets held omens and influences over earthly affairs. Eclipses, comets, or unusual alignments were often interpreted as auspicious or ominous signs, requiring specific rituals or adjustments in their agricultural practices. Feng Shui, the ancient art of harmonizing with the natural environment, subtly influenced the placement of homes, graves, and even field boundaries. Farmers instinctively understood the importance of auspicious locations for their dwellings and the proper flow of energy across their land for prosperity. Divination, using methods like casting yarrow stalks or interpreting tortoise shells, was sometimes employed to seek guidance on important decisions. This could include auspicious times for planting, favorable dates for marriage, or the best locations for new buildings, seeking cosmic alignment for successful outcomes. Taboos and superstitions permeated daily life, dictating specific actions or prohibitions to avoid bad luck or invite good fortune into their homes and fields. For example, certain days might be considered unlucky for planting, or specific colors might be avoided in rituals to prevent displeasing deities. They believed in earth spirits and various benevolent or malevolent local deities residing in mountains, rivers, or ancient trees, requiring respect and offerings. Failure to appease these spirits could lead to sickness, crop failure, or general misfortune, fostering a cautious and respectful approach to the natural world. Buddhist and Taoist influences, though perhaps less formally understood than by scholars, seeped into their popular beliefs, offering moral guidance and concepts of karma or destiny. Monasteries and temples in nearby towns sometimes served as centers for communal prayer or spiritual refuge during times of profound distress or natural disaster. The practice of folk medicine was deeply intertwined with their beliefs, using herbal remedies and sometimes spiritual rituals to cure illnesses or ward off evil influences. Their beliefs provided a framework for understanding an often unpredictable world, offering explanations for natural phenomena and providing solace in times of hardship. They instilled a sense of order and meaning into the relentless cycle of their agricultural lives, connecting their daily toil to a vast, unseen spiritual realm. The ancient Chinese farmer's spiritual world was rich and complex, a profound testament to humanity's universal need to find meaning and control in an often unforgiving existence. Chapter 13. Architecture of Survival. The ancient Chinese farmhouse, far from being a grand architectural marvel, was instead a pragmatic masterpiece of survival, meticulously designed to meet the fundamental needs of a farming family and their arduous labor. Its architecture was dictated by local materials, climate, and the continuous rhythms of agricultural life, prioritizing functionality, resilience, and basic comfort over elaborate aesthetics. Most farmhouses were constructed using readily available earthen materials, predominantly rammed earth or adobe bricks mixed with straw for added strength and insulation. Rammed earth walls were incredibly thick, providing excellent insulation against both the scorching summer heat and the biting cold of winter, a natural climate control. Roofs were typically constructed from a wooden frame, covered with layers of thatch, or in more prosperous regions, durable terracotta tiles. Thatch roofs, made from bundled straw or reeds, offered good insulation and were easily repaired with local materials, but required regular maintenance to prevent leaks. The layout of the farmhouse was often simple and linear, typically comprising one or two main rooms, with adjoining sheds or shelters for livestock and stored tools. The main room served as a multi-purpose living space, functioning as a communal eating area, a workspace for domestic chores, and a sleeping area for the entire family. A central hearth or stove was the heart of the home, used for cooking, boiling water, and providing essential warmth during the cold winter months. Smoke from the hearth was often vented directly through a hole in the roof or a rudimentary chimney, sometimes warming the sleeping platforms below. A clever design. Kang's heated brick or earth sleeping platforms were common in northern China, providing crucial warmth during harsh winters, enhancing their comfort and survival. These kangs were heated by flues running underneath them, connected to the cooking stove, efficiently utilizing waste heat and conserving precious fuel. An ingenious solution. Windows were typically small and few, primarily for ventilation and to minimize heat loss in winter, often covered with paper or simple wooden shutters rather than glass. The floor was usually bare earth, pounded hard and smooth, easy to clean but often dusty, reflecting the basic and pragmatic nature of their living conditions. Furniture was sparse and functional. Low tables for eating, simple wooden stools or benches, and chests for storing meager possessions and valuable grains. Beds were often simple mats laid directly on the kong or on raised wooden platforms, shared by multiple family members, fostering close communal living. Adjoining storage areas were crucial for protecting harvested grain, dried vegetables, and other precious food supplies from pests and moisture. These storage spaces were carefully designed to be cool, dark, and dry, ensuring the longevity of their vital food reserves, a matter of life and death. A separate small shed or a corner of the main room might serve as a basic shelter for livestock like chickens, pigs, or the indispensable ox, keeping them close and secure. The immediate surroundings of the farmhouse often included a small vegetable garden, meticulously cultivated to provide fresh produce for daily meals. A communal well was typically located within the village, a shared resource for drinking water, cooking, and sometimes for small-scale garden irrigation. The farmhouse was designed to be easily maintained and repaired by the family themselves, utilizing readily available local materials and traditional building techniques. Its humble appearance belied its profound efficiency and resilience, a structure perfectly adapted to the demanding life of an ancient Chinese farmer. It was a sanctuary from the elements, a place for rest and recuperation, and the very center of their family life, embodying their struggle and their enduring spirit. The architecture of the farmhouse was a silent testament to the ingenuity and resourcefulness of a people who lived in profound harmony with their environment, building for survival. Chapter 14: Education and Knowledge for the Ancient Chinese Farmer. Formal education, in the classical sense, was a rare and distant privilege, largely reserved for the scholarly elite and the wealthy urban gentry. Their education was instead a pragmatic, hands-on apprenticeship, deeply rooted in the fields and within the rhythm of their daily agricultural existence. Knowledge was primarily oral, passed down patiently from generation to generation, from parent to child, from elder to youth, through direct instruction and tireless observation. Young boys learned the intricate techniques of plowing, sowing, weeding, and harvesting by diligently observing their fathers and older male relatives working in the fields. They memorized the auspicious times for planting various crops, discerned the subtle signs of healthy soil, and understood the nuances of irrigation based on lived experience. Girls learned the essential domestic skills from their mothers and grandmothers: grinding grain, cooking, preserving food, weaving cloth, and caring for livestock and younger siblings. This practical education was continuous, beginning from a very tender age and continuing throughout their lives, adapting to new challenges and evolving with experience. The wisdom of elders was highly revered and served as a living library of agricultural knowledge, weather patterns, traditional remedies, and family history. Their accumulated experience, spanning countless seasons, was an invaluable resource for predicting droughts or floods, advising on crop choices, and resolving disputes. Farming proverbs and folk songs often encapsulated practical knowledge. Mnemonic devices for remembering crucial agricultural timings or techniques. These short, memorable phrases provided essential guidance on planting depths, pest control methods, or weather forecasting, easy to transmit and recall. For example, a proverb might advise on the best time to sow rice, linking it to a particular phase of the moon or the blooming of a specific flower. Observational skills were paramount. Farmers meticulously watched the sky, the clouds, the wind direction, and the behavior of animals to predict weather changes. They learned to read the subtle signs of impending rain or prolonged drought, adapting their planting schedules and irrigation efforts accordingly. Knowledge of local ecology, including native plants, soil types, water sources, and common pests, was fundamental to their successful cultivation. They understood which crops thrived in specific plots of land, the best rotation cycles, and the optimal methods for enriching the soil's fertility. While most farmers were illiterate, unable to read or write classical Chinese characters, their practical intelligence and profound knowledge of their craft were immense. Very rarely, a village might have a local teacher or a retired scholar who offered rudimentary literacy, teaching a few children to read and write basic characters. This minimal literacy was often limited to understanding land deeds, tax receipts, or simple contracts, rarely extending to classical texts or philosophical works. The farmer's primary texts were the fields themselves, the shifting skies, the flowing rivers, and the endless cycles of nature, providing constant, practical lessons. Their knowledge was deeply experiential, forged through countless hours of direct engagement with the earth, adapting and innovating based on empirical observation. This profound practical wisdom, though not formalized in books, was the true intellectual backbone of ancient Chinese agriculture, sustaining a vast empire for millennia. It represented a different kind of intelligence, one focused on survival, resilience, and an intimate understanding of the complex, living world around them. The continuity of their knowledge ensured the longevity of their farming practices and the enduring legacy of their connection to the land, generation after generation. Chapter 15. The farmer's relationship with the state. The ancient Chinese farmer's relationship with the vast, omnipresent imperial state was a complex, often fraught, yet undeniable cornerstone of their very existence. They were both the indispensable foundation of imperial power and, simultaneously, a heavily burdened and often exploited class, at the mercy of distant authorities. The state fundamentally viewed the farmer as the producer of essential grain, the primary source of wealth and stability for the entire empire. The vast majority of the population were farmers, and their continuous productive labor was crucial for feeding the cities, supporting the bureaucracy, and provisioning the army. This central importance was reflected in Confucian ideology, which theoretically placed farmers as the second most respected class after scholars. However, in practice, this theoretical respect often translated into heavy demands and strict control, rather than genuine protection or profound care for their welfare. The most direct and pervasive interaction with the state came through taxation. primarily levied on their agricultural output. Farmers were obligated to pay a portion of their harvest, typically grain, directly to the state as land tax, a non-negotiable and significant burden. These grain taxes were meticulously collected by local officials, often with little leniency, ensuring the imperial granaries remained perpetually full. Beyond grain, farmers were also subject to poll taxes, levied per household or per adult male, adding another layer of financial strain on their meager incomes. The system was often prone to corruption. Local magistrates and tax collectors sometimes demanded additional unofficial levies or manipulated records for personal gain. This exploitation often pushed farmers to the brink of destitution, leading to widespread suffering and deep resentment, fueling occasional, desperate uprisings. Labor was another major obligation, compelling farmers to provide free labor for state-sponsored public works projects for a certain period each year. These projects, such as building and maintaining irrigation canals, roads, city walls, and imperial palaces, were vital for the empire's infrastructure but devastating for individual farmers. The timing of labor often coincided with critical planting or harvesting seasons, forcing farmers to neglect their own fields, jeopardizing their precious yields. Military conscription also drew young men from farming families, requiring them to serve in the imperial army, removing vital labor from the family unit. This service could last for months or even years, leaving families short-handed and vulnerable, adding another dimension of profound burden to their lives. The state also exercised significant control over land ownership and tenure, periodically conducting land surveys and dictating policies regarding land distribution. While some dynasties attempted to implement equal field systems to ensure equitable access to land, these reforms were often short-lived and difficult to enforce. Over time, wealthy landlords and powerful aristocratic families often accumulated vast tracts of land, reducing many farmers to the status of tenants. Tenant farmers paid a substantial portion of their harvest as rent to their landlords, leaving them with even less for their own subsistence and making them more vulnerable to hardship. Local government officials, such as the county magistrate, were the direct embodiment of imperial authority, overseeing taxation, justice, and public order in the villages. These magistrates held immense power, capable of imposing punishments, mediating disputes, and ensuring the compliance of the farming populace with imperial decrees. Farmers lived under the pervasive shadow of state power, often accepting their lot as an unchangeable reality, focusing on survival within the established system. Rebellions by desperate peasants, though rare and often brutally suppressed, were a recurring feature of Chinese history, highlighting the severe strains on the agricultural population. These uprisings, like the Yellow Turban Rebellion or the Red Eyebrows, often occurred during periods of famine and oppressive rule, demonstrating the farmers' collective power when pushed too far. The state also provided certain benefits, such as large-scale irrigation projects and flood control measures, which, though built with farmer labor, ultimately benefited their productivity. The imperial system also offered a degree of stability and protection from external threats or widespread anarchy, creating a framework within which agriculture could function. Despite the hardships, farmers generally understood their essential role in the empire, recognizing that their labor was fundamental to the prosperity and continuity of their civilization. Their relationship with the state was a constant negotiation between compliance and survival, a silent agreement to endure the burdens in exchange for a semblance of order and peace. The ancient Chinese farmer, the enduring backbone of a vast empire, lived a life inextricably linked to the demanding, often overbearing, yet ultimately foundational presence of the imperial state. Chapter 16: Technology and Innovation. The ancient Chinese farmer, often perceived through the lens of arduous manual labor, was in fact a beneficiary and often an unwitting contributor to remarkable technological innovations that profoundly shaped their agricultural efficiency and resilience. While the pace of change was slow by modern standards, continuous improvements in tools, irrigation, and cultivation techniques gradually enhanced their capacity to feed a vast and growing population. The iron plow was arguably one of the most significant advancements, a continuous refinement of an ancient wooden implement. Early iron plows allowed for more efficient breaking of stubborn soil, but the development of the curved iron moldboard plow revolutionized cultivation. This moldboard design efficiently turned the soil over, aerating it deeply, improving drainage, and burying weeds and crop residue, thus enriching the earth. The use of oxen as draft animals for plowing further boosted efficiency, allowing farmers to cultivate larger areas with less human exertion. The invention of the seed drill during the Warring States period was another groundbreaking innovation, though its widespread adoption took time. This device allowed for the precise, regular sowing of seeds in neat rows, ensuring optimal spacing, consistent depth, and efficient use of precious seeds. Unlike broadcast sowing, water lifting devices were crucial, especially in rice-growing regions, showcasing remarkable ingenuity in hydraulic engineering. The foot-operated chain pump, already mentioned, was a marvel of simple mechanics, allowing one or two farmers to continuously raise water from lower to higher elevations. Its efficiency in irrigating paddy fields was unparalleled for its time, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of levers, chains, and continuous motion. Large water wheels, sometimes powered by river currents or oxen, further exemplified their mastery of water management, enabling large-scale irrigation of extensive farmlands. These machines transformed the landscape, turning vast, dry areas into fertile, productive rice paddies, fundamentally altering agricultural potential. The development of sophisticated irrigation canals and reservoirs, some engineered on an imperial scale, showcased advanced civil engineering skills. These projects not only distributed water efficiently, but also helped manage floodwaters, protecting valuable agricultural land from devastating inundation. The use of manure from human and animal waste as fertilizer was a long-standing practice, vital for replenishing soil nutrients and maintaining fertility. Farmers also developed techniques for using green manure crops, planting specific plants to be plowed back into the soil, enriching it naturally. Crop rotation, though not always scientifically understood in terms of nutrient cycles, was intuitively practiced to avoid exhausting the soil with monoculture. This practical knowledge helped maintain soil health over long periods, preventing the depletion of essential elements and ensuring sustained productivity. Weeding tools, particularly various forms of hoes and specialized weeding knives, were continuously refined for efficiency in battling pervasive weeds. The development of different tools for specific soil types and crop requirements reflected a deep understanding of agricultural needs and practical problem-solving. Iron metallurgy played a crucial role in the continuous improvement of farming tools, making them more durable, sharper, and more effective than earlier stone or wooden implements. The ability to cast and forge strong, reliable iron implements gave Chinese farmers a significant advantage in cultivating their land and managing their crops. Food processing and storage techniques also saw continuous innovation, extending the shelf life of harvested crops and mitigating the risk of famine. Methods like sun-drying, salting, fermenting, and constructing sophisticated pest-resistant granaries were crucial technological advancements in food security. While farmers themselves might not have been the inventors of every large-scale innovation, they were adept at adopting and adapting new technologies to their specific local conditions. Their daily interactions with the land and their tools often led to small, incremental improvements passed down within families and villages, contributing to overall progress. The collective ingenuity and tireless labor of ancient Chinese farmers, combined with significant technological advancements, created an agricultural system capable of sustaining one of the world's most populous and enduring civilizations for thousands of years. Chapter 17. Risks and Mitigations. The life of an ancient Chinese farmer was a precarious balance between relentless toil and the constant threat of natural disaster or human-made hardship, necessitating sophisticated risk mitigation strategies for survival. Natural disasters. Floods were perhaps the most terrifying and destructive, particularly along the Yellow and Yangtze River basins, capable of wiping out entire communities. Farmers often built their homes on slightly higher ground or used raised foundations, a simple yet crucial mitigation against minor inundations. Communal efforts were vital for constructing and maintaining dikes and levees along rivers, creating defensive barriers against rising waters. Despite these efforts, catastrophic floods still occurred, forcing families to abandon their homes and seek temporary refuge on higher ground, often losing everything. Droughts, equally devastating, turned fertile land barren, leading to widespread crop failure and the inevitable specter of famine. Farmers developed an intuitive understanding of water conservation, maximizing every drop through careful irrigation and minimizing waste. They dug deep wells to access underground water sources, providing a crucial lifeline for drinking and supplementary irrigation during dry spells. The construction of local reservoirs and ponds to capture and store rainwater during the wet season was a vital mitigation against future drought. Pest infestations, from locust swarms to smaller crop-eating insects, posed a constant threat to their precious harvests. Farmers engaged in continuous manual pest removal, meticulously handpicking insects from their crops, a tedious but essential task. They sometimes used simple barriers or trenches to deter crawling insects or employed basic biological controls, such as encouraging beneficial predators. Extreme weather events, including hailstorms, typhoons in the south, or severe frost in the north, could rapidly destroy crops and infrastructure. Farmers often diversified their crops, planting different varieties with varying tolerances to weather, ensuring that at least some crops might survive adverse conditions. They also relied on the resilience of their traditional building materials, like rammed earth, which offered better protection than lighter structures against strong winds. Economic and social risks. Famine was the ultimate consequence of natural disasters, leading to widespread starvation and social collapse, a constant dread for every farming family. Food storage was therefore a paramount mitigation strategy. Meticulously drying and storing grain in secure, pest-resistant granaries was essential for survival during lean seasons. Families practiced extreme frugality, ensuring every resource was utilized to its fullest extent and nothing was wasted, extending their meager supplies. Diversified farming helped spread risk, growing multiple types of grains, vegetables, and raising a few animals ensured that if one crop failed, others might still provide sustenance. Heavy taxation and labor imposed by the state were significant, predictable burdens that could push families into destitution. Farmers often engaged in subsistence farming, aiming to produce just enough to feed their family and pay their taxes, minimizing surplus that might be further taxed. They often relied on community support during times of hardship, with neighbors sharing food or labor, providing a vital safety net in a harsh world. Mutual aid associations or informal networks within villages helped farmers pool resources or provide assistance to those facing severe distress. The threat of land loss due to debt or inability to pay taxes was ever present, forcing many into tenancy or landlessness. Farmers strove to maintain their ancestral land, often through extreme sacrifices, as it was the very foundation of their family's identity and future. Banditry and social unrest, especially during periods of imperial decline or famine, posed a direct threat to their lives and property. Villages often organized local defense groups or communal watches, pooling their limited resources to protect their homes and harvests from marauders. Disease and illness were constant risks, capable of incapacitating a vital family member, leading to significant economic hardship and potential ruin. Farmers relied on traditional herbal medicine, folk remedies, and the overall resilience of their bodies to combat ailments, as access to formal health care was non-existent. Despite the multitude of profound risks, the ancient Chinese farmer displayed extraordinary resilience, adaptability, and an unyielding will to survive. Their ability to innovate, cooperate, and endure countless hardships was the profound secret to their millennial-long survival and the continuous prosperity of their civilization. The constant negotiation with risk, both natural and human-made, forged a tenacious spirit that allowed them to literally coax life from the unpredictable land, generation after generation. Chapter 18: Spiritual Connection to the Land for the Ancient Chinese Farmer. Their relationship with the land transcended mere economic necessity. It was a deeply spiritual bond, woven into the very fabric of their existence and profound belief system. The earth was not simply soil to be tilled. It was a living entity, imbued with spirits, ancestral echoes, and cosmic energy, demanding reverence and careful stewardship. Ancestor worship connected them intimately to the land, as their ancestors were believed to reside within the very ground they tilled, providing continuous protection and blessings. Gravesites, meticulously chosen and revered, were often located on auspicious parts of their land, believed to influence the family's fortunes and the fertility of their fields. Offerings of food, wine, and incense were regularly made at family altars and ancestral tombs, seeking the ancestors' continued benevolence for successful harvests. This practice instilled a profound sense of continuity, recognizing that their present toil was an extension of the labor of countless generations who had nurtured the same sacred soil. The god of soil was perhaps the most directly relevant deity for farmers, revered as the local earth spirit, guardian of their immediate plots and villages. Small, humble shrines to 2D Gong were ubiquitous, found at the edges of fields, within village compounds, or beneath ancient, sacred trees. Farmers would make regular offerings and pray for fertile soil, protection from pests, abundant yields, and the general well-being of their crops and families. He was the most accessible deity, an earthly spirit who directly oversaw their daily struggles and offered immediate protection for their most vital resource. Heaven was also revered as a supreme cosmic force, influencing weather patterns, seasonal changes, and the ultimate success or failure of their agricultural endeavors. Prayers for timely rains or protection from floods and droughts were directed to heaven, recognizing its profound and ultimate control over their livelihood. The concept of Tao, though complex, permeated their understanding of natural rhythms, encouraging harmony with the cyclical processes of growth and decay. Farmers intuitively followed the Tao by adapting their planting schedules to the seasons, respecting the natural flow of water and striving for balance in their cultivation. Feng Shui, though often associated with grander architecture, also subtly influenced the farmers' decisions regarding the placement of homes, outbuildings, and even field boundaries. They sought auspicious locations that allowed positive energy to flow freely, believing it would bring prosperity to their family and enhance the fertility of their land. Farmers observed natural phenomena with profound spiritual significance. The flight of birds, the behavior of insects, or unusual cloud formations were often interpreted as divine omens. These signs guided their decisions, indicating favorable times for planting, harvesting, or preparing for impending weather changes. A deep connection to nature's subtle cues. The annual cycle of festivals was deeply intertwined with agricultural rites, celebrating the earth's bounty and giving thanks to the deities and ancestors. The spring festival marked new beginnings and prayers for a prosperous year, while the mid-autumn festival celebrated the completed harvest and expressed gratitude. These communal rituals reinforced their shared spiritual connection to the land and to each other, binding them in a collective act of reverence and thanksgiving. The very act of tilling the soil was imbued with spiritual meaning. It was not just labor, but a sacred duty, working in partnership with the earth and its spirits. The feel of the cool, damp earth in their hands, the smell of freshly turned soil, and the sight of green shoots emerging were sources of profound spiritual comfort and connection. They understood that their lives were a continuous negotiation with natural forces, and spiritual harmony was as crucial as physical effort for their survival and prosperity. The ancient Chinese farmer's enduring resilience was rooted not only in their practical skills, but also in their profound spiritual connection to the land, a bond that nourished their souls as much as their bodies. Chapter 19. Social Status and Imperial Ideals. The social status of the ancient Chinese farmer, while theoretically elevated by imperial ideals, often stood in stark contrast to the harsh realities of their daily lives, placing them at the intersection of reverence and exploitation. Imperial ideology, particularly influenced by Confucian principles, placed farmers as the second highest of the four traditional occupational classes. This theoretical ranking reflected the state's deep understanding that agriculture was the absolute foundation of the empire's prosperity and stability, feeding its vast population. The emperor himself often participated in annual plowing ceremonies, symbolically honoring the farmer's labor and reinforcing the importance of agriculture as the basis of the realm. Scholars and officials frequently lauded the virtues of the diligent farmer: hard work, frugality, honesty, and an unwavering connection to the land, embodying traditional values. However, this high theoretical status often did not translate into tangible benefits or significant political influence for the individual farmer, whose voice remained largely unheard. In reality, farmers were largely a voiceless, often exploited class, burdened by heavy taxes, forced labor, and vulnerability to the whims of nature and corrupt local officials. They stood at the bottom of the practical power structure, subject to the dictates of landlords, magistrates, and the vast, distant imperial bureaucracy. Taxation was their most direct and relentless burden, with a significant portion of their meager harvests claimed by the state to fill imperial granaries and fund the government. The constant threat of famine, compounded by heavy taxes, meant that many farmers lived perpetually on the edge of subsistence, one bad harvest away from starvation. Labor, mandatory conscription for public works, pulled farmers away from their crucial fields, leading to neglected crops and further economic hardship. Land ownership, the theoretical basis of their status, was often precarious. Many farmers were tenants, working land owned by wealthy landlords and paying exorbitant rents. This tenant status often perpetuated a cycle of poverty and indebtedness, making it incredibly difficult for families to accumulate wealth or improve their standing. Unlike scholars, who could theoretically rise through the ranks via civil service examinations, farmers had virtually no avenue for social mobility outside of extraordinary circumstances. Their lives were largely confined to their village and their fields, with limited interaction beyond local markets or the occasional visit from an imperial official. Local magistrates often viewed farmers as a means to an end, a source of tax revenue and labor, rather than as individuals deserving of protection or genuine welfare. Despite the hardships, farmers generally accepted their lot, often believing in the concept of fate or heaven's mandate that guided their existence. Their enduring resilience was a testament to their deep connection to their family and community, which provided essential support against the harsh realities of their daily lives. They understood their crucial role in feeding the empire, a silent, profound contribution to the prosperity and stability of Chinese civilization. Occasional peasant rebellions, often triggered by extreme hardship and oppression, were a powerful, if rare, demonstration of the farmers' collective desperation and discontent. These uprisings, like the Yellow Turban Rebellion or the Taiping Rebellion in later centuries, though often brutally suppressed, sometimes played a role in dynastic transitions, forcing the state to acknowledge their plight. However, for most farmers, daily life was one of quiet endurance, focusing on the pragmatic tasks of survival within the existing social and imperial structure. Their social status was a paradox, revered in imperial ideology for their indispensable labor, yet often marginalized and burdened in the practical realities of governance. The ancient Chinese farmer, thus, lived a life of profound importance but limited power, the silent, tireless backbone of an enduring civilization. Chapter 20. The Farmer's Legacy. The legacy of the ancient Chinese farmer is not etched in grand imperial monuments or recorded in voluminous scholarly texts, but profoundly embedded in the very landscape of China and the enduring survival of its civilization. Their tireless, unyielding labor for millennia shaped the vast, fertile plains, the terraced mountainsides, and the intricate network of canals and dikes that transformed China's geography. Every paddy field, every ancient irrigation channel, every meticulously cultivated plot of land stands as a silent, living testament to their ceaseless dedication and profound ingenuity. They were the literal cultivators of civilization, providing the essential food surplus that allowed for the growth of cities, the development of complex bureaucracies, and the flourishing of art and philosophy. Without their relentless toil, the grand dynasties would never have risen, the scholars would have had no leisure for study, and the armies no strength to defend the empire's vast borders. Their profound knowledge of agriculture, passed down orally through countless generations, formed the bedrock of Chinese agricultural science, refined through millennia of empirical observation. They understood the subtle rhythms of the seasons, the nuances of soil fertility, the vital importance of water management, and the specific needs of diverse crops with profound intuitive wisdom. Their ingenious innovations, like the iron moldboard plow, the chain pump, and advanced irrigation techniques, significantly boosted agricultural productivity and sustained a growing population. The deep respect for the land and the harmony with nature, evident in their spiritual beliefs and farming practices, instilled a lasting reverence for the natural world within Chinese culture. Their resilience in the face of devastating floods, prolonged droughts, and relentless pest infestations established a powerful cultural ethos of endurance and unyielding perseverance. The strong family bonds and tightly knit village communities, forged in the crucible of shared labor and common challenges, created an enduring social fabric that sustained them through every crisis. Their emphasis on filial piety, respect for elders, and the importance of lineage deeply influenced Chinese society, perpetuating cultural values that extended far beyond the farming village. The very diet of the Chinese people, centered on grains like rice and millet, and supplemented by soybeans and vegetables, is a direct legacy of the staple crops cultivated by these ancient farmers. Their unwritten history is found in the calloused hands of subsequent generations of farmers, in the enduring fertility of the fields they meticulously nurtured, and in the quiet strength of rural communities. They embodied the virtues of hard work, frugality, patience, and a deep connection to the earth, qualities that were universally admired and seen as foundational to a virtuous life. Their contribution to human civilization is immeasurable, providing the food security necessary for the development of one of the world's most enduring and influential cultures. The ancient Chinese farmer, often unheralded and nameless in imperial records, was, in fact, the true, silent hero of Chinese history, the very essence of its continuous survival and prosperity. Their legacy lives on in every grain of rice consumed, every neatly terraced field, and every farmer who continues to coax life from the ancient soil of China. They represent the triumph of human ingenuity and resilience against the relentless forces of nature, a timeless testament to the power of unwavering dedication. And so, the vast fields of China continue to bear witness to the profound and enduring legacy of those who first tilled them, the humble, tireless, and eternally essential ancient Chinese farmers. Chapter 21: The Farmer's Year. A calendar of toil. The life of an ancient Chinese farmer was dictated by a precise, unwritten calendar, a continuous cycle of tasks intricately linked to the rhythm of the sun, the moon, and the subtle shifts of the natural world. each of the 24 solar terms, derived from ancient astronomical observations, subtly guided their agricultural practices, signaling specific periods for planting, tending, and harvesting various crops. Early spring, typically around February 4th, marked the true beginning of the farming year, bringing the first subtle thaw and the profound promise of new life. This was the time for meticulous field preparation, inspecting and repairing crucial irrigation systems, mending tools, and hauling nutrient-rich manure to enrich the fallow soil. The air, though still cool, held the faint scent of damp earth awakening, stirring the farmer's spirit with renewed vigor and a quiet sense of anticipation. The rainwater period, around February 18th, indicated increasing rainfall, crucial for softening the soil and preparing it for the upcoming intense sowing. Farmers began the arduous task of plowing, turning over the winter-hardened earth, breaking up clods, and creating a fine, receptive seedbed for the delicate seeds. This was often a communal effort, with patient oxen pulling heavy plows, their rhythmic movements marking the steady progression of the agricultural year. Insects awaken around March 5th, signaled the emergence of hibernating insects, a reminder of the coming battle against pests and the overall awakening of nature. Farmers meticulously sowed the first crops, often millet or wheat in the north, carefully placing each seed into the precisely prepared furrows, a profound act of faith. For rice farmers in the south, this was the time for preparing rice nurseries, nurturing young seedlings in sheltered beds before their eventual transplanting. The spring equinox, around March 20th, represented a balance of day and night, an ideal time for intensive planting, especially for spring-sown crops. The fields buzzed with quiet activity, human figures bent over the earth, their hands moving with tireless efficiency, a testament to their unwavering dedication. Clear and bright, around April 4th, was a time for ancestral rituals and tomb sweeping, connecting the present generation to those who had tilled the same land before them. It also marked a crucial period for continued sowing and the first intensive weeding, as new shoots emerged and competed with invasive, unwanted plants. Grain rain, around April 19th, indicated increased rainfall, vital for the vigorous growth of newly germinated crops, ensuring a strong start to the season. This was the height of spring planting, with every available hand mobilized to ensure timely completion before the full onset of the demanding summer heat. Summer begins around May 5th, marked the transition to the arduous summer season, characterized by rapid growth and increasingly intense labor. The sun grew stronger, the days longer, demanding continuous weeding, pest control, and meticulous irrigation to sustain the rapidly developing crops. Grain full, around May 20th, signified the ripening of early summer crops, particularly barley and wheat in some northern regions, foreshadowing the first modest harvests. Farmers remained vigilant, protecting their precious crops from potential hailstorms or sudden destructive downpours that could ruin weeks of labor. Grain in ear, around June 5th, signaled the time for harvesting winter wheat and transplanting late rice seedlings in the south, a period of immense, concentrated effort. The fields, vibrant with activity, buzzed with the rhythmic swish of sickles and the quiet footsteps of those gathering the ripening grains. A true collective endeavor. Summer solstice, around June 20th, brought the longest days and the peak of summer heat, requiring farmers to manage both intense growth and potential drought. irrigation efforts became paramount, with farmers tirelessly operating foot-powered pumps or diverting water to ensure their crops received sufficient moisture. Minor heat and major heat, spanning July, marked the hottest and often most humid periods, a grueling time for continuous cultivation and initial harvests. Despite the oppressive conditions, farmers continued their arduous work, driven by the profound imperative to nurture their crops through the critical growth stages. Autumn begins around August 7th, brought a subtle hint of cooler air, signaling the slow approach of the most anticipated season, the abundant harvest. While summer crops were still maturing, farmers began preparations for the main autumn harvest, readying their threshing floors and repairing storage facilities. End of heat, around August 22nd, marked a gradual decrease in summer's intensity, providing more favorable conditions for the final ripening of autumn crops. The fields began to change color, transitioning from vibrant green to golden hues, signaling the imminent bounty that awaited their tireless efforts. White dew, around September 7th, indicated the appearance of dew on vegetation, often a sign of cooler mornings and the final maturation of staple grains. This was a period of heightened anticipation and fervent prayers for good weather, ensuring a successful and timely harvest, free from unexpected storms. Autumn equinox, around September 22nd, was the heart of the autumn harvest, a joyous but incredibly labor-intensive period of communal gathering. Every able-bodied family member, from young children to respected elders, participated in the tireless work of cutting, gathering, threshing, and winnowing. Cold dew and frost's descent, spanning October, marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter preparations. Farmers diligently stored their grain, dried vegetables, and prepared livestock for the colder months, ensuring their survival through the lean season. Winter begins around November 7th, officially marked the onset of winter, bringing cooler temperatures and the first hints of frost or snow. The fields lay fallow, allowing the earth to rest and rejuvenate, preparing for the next arduous cycle of life and growth in the distant spring. Minor snow and major snow, spanning November and early December, brought increasing cold and often snow, leading to a period of reduced outdoor labor. Farmers focused on indoor tasks, repairing tools, weaving textiles, crafting baskets, and engaging in storytelling around the warm hearth. Winter solstice, around December 21st, marked the shortest day of the year, a time for family gatherings, ancestor worship, and rituals to ensure warmth and good fortune. This period of deep rest allowed their weary bodies to recover from the year's relentless toil, preparing them for the renewal of labor in the distant spring. Minor cold and major cold, spanning January, represented the coldest periods of winter, demanding careful management of food reserves and fuel. Despite the cold, farmers remained vigilant, ensuring the well-being of their livestock and preparing mentally for the upcoming demands of the new agricultural year. The cycle concluded, only to begin anew with the subtle promise of early spring, perpetuating the timeless rhythm of the ancient Chinese farmer's life, forever bound to the earth and its seasons. Chapter 22, Tools and Innovation, a deeper look. The relentless toil of the ancient Chinese farmer was perpetually augmented by a remarkable array of ingenious tools and continuous, incremental innovations that collectively transformed their productive capacity over millennia. These implements, born of necessity and refined through countless generations of practical experience, represented a profound understanding of mechanics, materials, science, and agricultural efficiency. The iron plow was not a static invention, but underwent continuous refinement, gradually evolving from simple iron tips to more complex, efficient designs. The development of the curved iron moldboard during the Han Dynasty was a revolutionary leap in plowing technology. This specific design allowed the plow to not only cut but also effectively turn over the soil, creating a deeper, more aerated furrow and burying weeds and crop residue efficiently. This innovation significantly reduced the labor required for tilling and improved soil fertility by incorporating organic matter more effectively, boosting yields. The multi-tube seed drill, famously described in texts from the 2nd century BCE, was a testament to sophisticated mechanical understanding. This device consisted of multiple funnels attached to a frame pulled by an ox, allowing for the simultaneous, precise, and evenly spaced sowing of several rows of seeds. It ensured optimal seed distribution, consistent planting depth, and efficient use of precious seeds, drastically improving germination rates compared to traditional broadcast sowing. Water lifting technologies were absolutely crucial, especially for extensive rice cultivation in the South, leading to the invention of various ingenious hydraulic machines. The foot-operated chain pump, dating back to the Han Dynasty, was a widespread marvel of continuous water elevation. It featured a long, rectangular trough with a continuous chain carrying wooden pallets, which, when a farmer pedaled a horizontal axle, scooped water up and discharged it into higher irrigation channels. The sheer volume of water that could be moved by such a simple, human-powered device was astonishing, transforming arid landscapes into fertile paddies. Larger-scale water wheels, often powered by the natural flow of rivers or by strong oxen, were used for more extensive irrigation projects. These wheels, sometimes equipped with a series of buckets or scoops along their circumference, continuously lifted water to higher levels, feeding vast canal networks. The innovative use of crank handles, gears, and reciprocal motion in these water-lifting devices showcased a sophisticated grasp of mechanical principles long before their widespread adoption in the West. Threshing and winnowing tools also saw continuous improvements, making the post-harvest processing of grain more efficient. Simple flails, used for beating harvested stalks to separate grain, were complemented by more sophisticated winnowing machines. These mechanical winnowers, powered by a hand-cranked fan, efficiently separated the heavier grain from the lighter chaff, drastically reducing manual labor and time. Soil enrichment techniques evolved beyond simple manuring, including the systematic use of green manure crops planted specifically to be plowed back into the soil. This practice, understood empirically, helped fix nitrogen in the soil and replenish organic matter, maintaining long-term fertility without reliance on chemical fertilizers. The careful management of crop rotation patterns, though often based on generations of observation rather than scientific theory, optimized nutrient use and reduced pest accumulation. Improvements in iron metallurgy led to stronger, lighter, and more specialized tools. From various types of hoes and spades to durable sickles and harvesting knives, the quality and durability of these iron implements significantly enhanced the farmer's productivity and extended the lifespan of their crucial tools. Even seemingly minor innovations, such as improved designs for carrying poles that better distributed weight, eased the physical burden of transporting heavy loads. The cumulative effect of these countless incremental innovations, spread across centuries and diverse regions, allowed ancient Chinese farmers to steadily increase agricultural yields. This continuous technological advancement, driven by the practical needs of survival and the imperative to feed a growing population, formed a silent but powerful legacy of ingenuity. The ancient Chinese farmer was not just a laborer, but an integral part of an agricultural system that continuously adapted and innovated, securing the very foundation of their civilization for millennia. Chapter 23: Climate and Geography, Shaping the Farmer's Life. The diverse and often challenging climate and geography of ancient China fundamentally dictated the methods, crops, and daily lives of its millions of diligent farmers, creating distinct regional agricultural practices. Northern China. This region, often referred to as the cradle of Chinese civilization, was characterized by a temperate climate with cold, dry winters and hot, humid summers. Rainfall was often unpredictable and seasonal, concentrating in the summer months, leading to frequent droughts or, conversely, devastating floods. The dominant geographical feature was the Loess Plateau, an immense area covered by fine, yellowish, fertile soil deposited by wind, easily tilled but prone to erosion. The Yellow River, while fertile, was notoriously prone to devastating floods, earning it the moniker China's Sorrow, a constant threat to farmers. Due to these conditions, dryland farming dominated, with millet and wheat being the primary staple crops, well adapted to drier conditions. Millet, in particular, was incredibly drought-resistant and formed the dietary backbone for millennia in this region, offering reliable sustenance. Farmers here often practiced intercropping and crop rotation to maximize limited moisture and maintain soil fertility. The cold winters meant a single main harvest season, requiring extensive food preservation and careful management of stored grain to last through the lean months. Villages were often built on higher ground to mitigate flood risks, and communal efforts were vital for building and maintaining earthen dikes and levees along the river. Life in the north was often harsher, dictated by the more extreme temperatures and the unpredictable nature of the Yellow River, demanding immense resilience from its farmers. Southern China. This region boasted a subtropical to tropical climate characterized by mild, wet winters and hot, humid summers, with abundant and consistent rainfall. The rich Yangtze River and its myriad tributaries provided an inexhaustible source of water, making extensive wet rice cultivation profoundly viable. The geography included vast, fertile plains, numerous lakes, and intricate river deltas, ideal for the creation of vast, interconnected paddy fields. Rice was the undisputed king of crops, cultivated in meticulously leveled and often terraced paddy fields that were continuously flooded for much of the growing season. The abundance of water often allowed for double cropping or even triple cropping of rice in some highly fertile areas, significantly boosting yields. This intensive cultivation required immense labor for transplanting seedlings, managing water levels, and weeding the flooded paddies, often under high humidity. While floods were less catastrophic than in the north, localized inundations from heavy monsoon rains were still a significant concern. The warmer climate also supported a greater diversity of crops, including various vegetables, fruits, and later, cash crops like tea and mulberry for silk production. The omnipresent presence of water led to the widespread use of ingenious water lifting devices like the foot-operated chain pump and large water wheels. Life in the South, while still laborious, often benefited from more reliable rainfall and warmer temperatures, allowing for more consistent and higher agricultural output. Other regions, coastal areas, adapted farming to proximity to the sea, supplementing their diet with fish and relying on sea breezes. Mountainous regions necessitated terraced farming, carving flat steps into steep slopes to create arable land and prevent erosion. These terraces were often incredibly labor-intensive to construct and maintain, but allowed for cultivation in otherwise unusable terrain, reflecting incredible human ingenuity. The specific crops grown in mountainous areas were dictated by altitude and local microclimates, often including hardy grains or specialty crops. Across all regions, farmers developed an intuitive and profound ecological knowledge, adapting their specific agricultural techniques to the unique demands of their local environment. Their tools, housing styles, and daily routines were all direct responses to the opportunities and challenges presented by China's incredibly diverse and vast geography. The resilience of the ancient Chinese farmer was inextricably linked to their ability to understand, respect, and ultimately work in profound harmony with the powerful forces of their natural world. The enduring landscape of China today stands as a powerful testament to the thousands of years of ceaseless toil and remarkable adaptation by these anonymous cultivators. Chapter 24. Leisure and Simple Joys. While the life of an ancient Chinese farmer was largely defined by relentless toil and the constant pursuit of survival, it was not entirely devoid of leisure or simple, profound joys that illuminated their arduous existence. These moments of respite were precious and often brief, deeply cherished as vital breaks from the unremitting demands of the land and the household. Communal festivals were the most significant occasions for leisure and celebration, providing essential emotional and social release for the entire village. The Spring Festival, marking the Lunar New Year, was the most important, bringing families together for elaborate meals, ancestor worship, and joyous festivities spanning several days. During this time, work ceased, and villagers engaged in feasting on rare delicacies, wearing new clothes, and participating in traditional dances and games, forgetting their daily burdens. Other festivals, like the Dragon Boat Festival and the Muk Festival, offered specific rituals, special foods, and opportunities for communal gatherings. These festivals were vital for reinforcing social bonds, cultural identity, and providing a powerful sense of belonging within their tightly knit communities. Storytelling was a pervasive and beloved form of entertainment, especially during the long, dark winter evenings when outdoor labor was limited. Elders, their faces etched with wisdom, would recount ancient myths, epic legends, folk tales, and family histories around the warm hearth or under the flickering lamplight. These stories not only provided entertainment, but also transmitted moral values, practical farming knowledge, and a deep understanding of their cultural heritage to younger generations. Simple games provided amusement for children and sometimes adults during rare moments of downtime, fostering camaraderie and light-hearted competition. Games might involve pebbles, sticks, or rudimentary dice, played informally in the dusty courtyards or beside the fields during short breaks. Music, though often simple, provided comfort and joy. Farmers might play bamboo flutes or simple stringed instruments during quiet evenings or at village gatherings. Folk songs, often related to farming life, love, or historical events, were sung collectively, expressing shared experiences and emotions. Visiting the market in a nearby town or larger village was not just a practical necessity for trade, but also a significant social event. It offered an opportunity to escape the confines of the village, meet relatives from other areas, exchange news and gossip, and observe the bustling diversity of a larger community. Farmers might enjoy a rare, simple meal at a street vendor's stall, a small luxury that broke the monotony of their usual plain diet. Gambling, often with dice or simple card games, was a common pastime for men during moments of leisure, though often frowned upon if it led to significant losses. It provided a brief thrill and a distraction from the stresses of their demanding lives, a small indulgence in their otherwise frugal existence. Communal feasting occurred not just during major festivals, but also during significant agricultural milestones, like the completion of a challenging irrigation project or a particularly bountiful harvest. These shared meals, often with slightly richer fare than usual, reinforced the collective spirit and celebrated their shared triumphs and hard-won successes. Observing nature itself could be a source of profound, quiet joy. Watching the subtle change of seasons, the growth of their crops, or the behavior of animals offered simple pleasures. The beauty of a sunset over their fields, the clear, starlit sky at night, or the sound of spring rains were natural spectacles that offered solace and connection. Sleep, after a day of unremitting physical labor, was itself a profound joy and a deeply cherished form of leisure, a complete escape into rest and dreams. The simple pleasure of being completely rested and free from the day's aches was a fundamental source of comfort and rejuvenation. While their lives were undoubtedly challenging, these moments of shared celebration, simple entertainment, and quiet observation provided vital relief and reminded them of the enduring joys of life within their communities. Chapter 25: Death, Burial, and Ancestors for the Ancient Chinese Farmer. Death was not an abrupt end, but a profound transition deeply interwoven with life, the land, and the continuous spiritual presence of their cherished ancestors. The family played a central and paramount role in all rituals surrounding death, burial, and subsequent ancestor worship, ensuring the deceased's peaceful journey and continued influence. When a family member passed away, the immediate period was marked by profound mourning, with family members wearing specific mourning clothes. The intensity and duration of mourning rituals varied based on the deceased's relationship to the mourner, with the deepest grief reserved for parents and patriarchs. The body was carefully washed and dressed in their finest clothes, often with multiple layers, and sometimes coins or jade were placed in their mouth for the afterlife. A central belief was that the deceased's soul consisted of two parts: the hun, which ascended to heaven, and the po, which remained with the body or grave. Proper burial rituals were crucial to ensure the po remained at peace in the tomb, preventing it from becoming a wandering, malevolent ghost. Coffins were typically made of wood, the quality and elaborateness depending on the family's wealth and status, often prepared well in advance of death. The deceased was placed in the coffin, often surrounded by personal belongings or symbolic objects believed to be useful in the afterlife. Burial was the preferred method of disposing of the dead, reflecting a deep respect for the physical body and its connection to the earth. Cremation was rare, largely associated with certain Buddhist practices and not widely adopted by the general farming populace who favored traditional burial. The grave site was of immense importance, meticulously chosen based on principles of feng shui to ensure auspicious energy for the deceased and the living descendants. An inauspicious gravesite was believed to bring misfortune, illness, or poverty to the family, making its selection a matter of profound concern and careful consultation. Often, a geomancer would be consulted to determine the most favorable location and orientation for the grave, ensuring harmony with the landscape. The burial ceremony involved a procession to the chosen grave site, accompanied by wailing mourners, musicians playing solemn tunes, and sometimes hired professional mourners. Offerings of food, wine, and incense were made at the grave, and paper effigies of servants, horses, money, and other necessities were burned for the deceased's use in the spirit world. After burial, a tombstone was often erected, inscribed with the deceased's name, dates, and sometimes a brief eulogy, marking their final resting place. The family would meticulously maintain the grave, ensuring it remained clean and well tended, as a sign of continued respect and filial piety. Ancestor worship continued long after the burial, becoming a central and ongoing spiritual practice for the farming family. Family altars were maintained in their homes, with spirit tablets or written names representing their ancestors, often placed in specific niches. Daily offerings of fresh food, water, and burning incense were made to the ancestors, acknowledging their spiritual presence and seeking their continuous blessings. During major festivals, particularly the Qingming Festival and the Spring Festival, families would visit the ancestral graves. They would clean the tombs, make elaborate offerings, and share meals at the grave site, reinforcing their bond with the deceased and their lineage. This continuous reverence for ancestors was believed to ensure the family's prosperity, protect them from harm, and guarantee successful harvests. The ancestors were not merely remembered. They were an active, spiritual force in the living world, influencing daily fortunes and providing guidance. Their presence reinforced the importance of the family name and the continuous lineage, connecting the present generation to the countless past and future. Death was a profound reminder of the cyclical nature of life, the continuity of family, and the enduring spiritual connection between humanity and the land they tilled. The ancient Chinese farmers' approach to death and ancestors underscored their holistic worldview, where the physical and spiritual realms were inextricably linked, shaping every aspect of their challenging yet deeply meaningful existence.